Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are in this international gathering and community of ours. My name's Herb and I'm an alcoholic. Please join me in prayer. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and especially you. Please join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And you might notice that I used different structure and phrases to emphasize the prayer. I've been challenging every one of my PowerPoints to really try to have them emphasize what I'm emphasizing. For instance, I have talked about 10, 11, and 12 as our way of living. So I may as well emphasize that in the slide. All caps. This is the path. This is the way. Step 1 through 9 is not the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the program of recovery within the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, but the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship of Al-Anon, the fellowship of Cocaine Anonymous, the fellowship of Gambling Anonymous, whatever the anonymous 12-step program you're in, that's a way of life, not with rules. No, there's not one rule. Well, if it is in your program, that's the culture of your program, but it's not endemic to the 12-step culture. It's an additive that people found helpful. I'm confident that that's the origin of any type of rules, if you will. And the first piece of work that we're invited to pay attention to after we finish step 9, Bill says we enter the world of the spirit. Listen to the language. We enter the world of the spirit. Oh, 10, 11, and 12. This is the world of the spirit. We've come out of the world of ourself, steps 1 through 9. It's an amazing organic kind of a picture. It really helps me. I hope it helps you. And I use the channel concept because of the prayer of St. Francis. Make me a channel. It's a wonderful metaphor for us. And step 10 clears that channel by removing. It continues the roto-rooter process of the 4th step, removing the disturbance in us on a spot check basis. Whenever we're disturbed, use step 10. It's like our cell phone. When you get a call, answer it. When you get a signal that you're disturbed, pause and take care of it. Right there on the spot. Common sense prevails, I hope. And at night, check it out. Inventory again. Not the major part of step 11 from my standpoint. The major part is the morning part where we ask for guidance in prayer and meditation. Filling the channel with life, with grace, with God, with source, with abundance, with energy, with spirit, whatever word you want to use, but filling that channel. I am the channel. And then allowing it to empty. It will seep out through our own wounds. Well, whether we want it to or not, All we have to have is that willingness, but have a full channel. We give away who we are. Usefulness based on principles. Usefulness. To be helpful is our only goal. So it's a quote from the big book someplace. The promise, though, is a spiritual awakening. Again, I emphasized awakening because that's the point. Don't pay too much attention to spiritual. It gets you tied up in a lot of conversational knots that just don't have to be part of the sentence structure. I'm asleep, dreaming that I'm awake until I do the steps, and then I realize I've been in the delusion of being awake, but now I am awake to see that I was asleep. Yeah, I mean, it's like amazing. I'm 37 years sober. I'm 32 years awake. And I'm still, and I've been doing these workshops. This is the conclusion of the 25th year. And I'm still enthusiastic and amazed. You're amazing. I mean, you've been amazed by yourself and you've been amazed by other people as you've watched them, like that classic butterfly metamorphosis. You've watched everybody change in the way they think and feel and behave right here on the screen, week after week after week. And if you were on both Monday and Tuesday, you got a double hit. Done to us, not by us, but not without us. The mystery. I can talk about it, I can observe it, I can confirm it. I just can't explain it. I don't attempt to. I call it a mystery. It's not a cop-out. It's that X plus factor, the combination of willingness and grace. My willingness to show up and take action, and grace to take me beyond the goal line. I can't get to the goal line, let alone across the goal line on my own. My history has demonstrated that. Even in AA, the first 4 years, I did not change. But I did this work beginning in 1988. I did it 4 times from 1988 to 2003. I've talked about those details. The point is that I changed. Slow process of transformation. Glacially slow in some cases, but fortunately, I'm not aware of how slow it is because, in fact, I'm experiencing it one day at a time. It's a process. It's a dynamic process, but the word is process. It's all caps. That's the point of this PowerPoint. And it's built, the 12 steps are built. This is my observation. It's kind of like just an interesting insight. It's built specifically to honor who we are as human beings. I've made a big point in step 1 of defining us as human beings structurally. Having a mind that thinks reflectively and having a will that decides voluntarily. The 2 things that make us human. From my standpoint and observing my experience and my understanding of the steps in the book, as well as my acquaintance with biology and psychology and philosophy and psychology, did I say theology? All the realms of study that I've been exposed to. Human beings are human because they have free will. That's the deciding component. Free will to decide to take voluntary action. But it's based on knowledge that we get, a perception that we get, a very unusual ability that we have for self-reflection. We can stand outside of ourselves and watch ourselves. We can think about our thinking. No, we can think about our thinking. Oh, the whole point of meditation is to listen to what we're thinking about as the possibility of an answer from the universe to the prayer, the question that we asked. What is your will for me today? How does the good manifest today? And what's my invitation? All of the even steps. Such a powerful insight, I think. At least it helped me understand what this is all about and why it's so exciting. All of the even steps are naming steps. All of the odd steps are decision and action steps. I've modified this for this particular conversation today. I've used this slide many times in the past, but today it's much clearer than it's ever been in 25 years, perhaps, that I've been using it. Naming the power, naming the obstacles to power, naming the defects that come from the obstacles, naming the harms to others that comes from the defects, and naming the disturbances, because I live in a world of other people who don't get the script, don't read the script, don't understand the script, and don't follow the script, my script. And all of the odd steps. An invitation to our will to decide to take action. Even step one in addiction, certainly we are not deciding anything other than recognizing the powerlessness of our experience in our history with regard to that addiction. When I start, I cannot stop. When I stop, I cannot stay stopped. It's as simple and as complex as that. And we spent 4 months on step one. The last part of it looking at unmanageability, which I considered the most important part. Powerless, no choice. My will on its own power will choose me, and my life is unmanageable because of that. The evidence are the bedevilments. The exact nature is my selfishness and self-centeredness. And I concede to my innermost self, as it says on page 30. The delusion that I am like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed. I'm quoting again from page 30. Powerful, powerful stuff. And so I decide to have a relationship with the reality that I hope is a reality deep inside myself. A commitment to take some actions to have that relationship, steps 4 through 9, by fully disclosing myself, by praying for the removal of that for which I am powerless to even recognize, let alone remove, and to change that behavior and repair the damage from my misbehavior. A lot. That's a lot. That's what we've done this year. The pre-workshop conversation was talking about how intense and how powerful. 12 months, it seems like it was forever, and yet I can remember starting in January. The whole point of step 11 and 12 is consciousness. I've changed that. I had compassion in step 12 before. I think consciousness is the absolute center post of this process, spiritual awakening. To improve it in step 11, meditation, and to enlarge it in step 12 by using principles to live our life and to help other people. Spiritual sobriety. I don't know whether the term rings your bell or not. I'm getting rather tired of it, actually. I like emotional sobriety. I think that's a wonderful term. My physical sobriety, of course, is a sine qua non for all of us, meaning you can't make any progress without it. Sine qua non, it's Latin. That without which nothing will happen, sine qua non. But spiritual sobriety this year, 2022, I'll find a better term than that. But for right now, it's the one I've been using because it's consistent with physical sobriety, emotional sobriety, and spiritual sobriety. where I use it as a dimmer switch. You've heard that all year long, a dimmer switch that goes up a notch at a time. We get physical sobriety as a gift. We're delivered there by finishing step 9. Someplace maybe before that, that's totally without our control at all. Nothing about this was within our control. It's within our management and influence, but not our control. Physical sobriety is the gift we are delivered to by the end of step 9. We are placed in the position of neutrality, page 84. Emotional sobriety is not in the big book, but it's certainly in the 12 and 12. Big book written in 1939. Bill was 4 or 5 years sober. 12 and 12 written in 1953, published in 1953. And it's replete with the term emotional sobriety. Bill had a huge awakening from 1939 to 1953 because he continued to stay gently pressed up against this process, both in his meditation practice and in helping other people. Emotional sobriety maintained by our step 10 process to stay in alignment. And then to improve and enlarge our consciousness through steps 11 and 12 specifically, as I indicated in a minute ago. Using the 3 parts of our humanity to illustrate this process of getting well, of healing. Physical sobriety, the platform for emotional sobriety. And with emotional sobriety, we will develop spiritual sobriety. I'm not quite sure, as I mentioned, exactly what that means, but it's an elevation of consciousness that I've never experienced previous to doing this work. And I can describe it in detail today in terms of the life I live of consciousness and contentment. Gifts of consciousness. But I know also that this dimmer switch goes down a notch at a time. As much as it integrates a day at a time, a week at a time, a step at a time, it disintegrates a day at a time, a week at a time. When we disregard the steps and we allow some untreated resentment or some undeclared fear or some secret that's held because it's nobody's business or it's such an embarrassment. And the lights get dim because the dimmer switch goes down and the darkness descends, and pretty soon the obsession returns. The shield is gone, or it's at least vulnerable, and we relapse. It goes up a day at a time, a notch at a time. It goes down a day at a time, a notch at a time. That's the whole point of this. A process, not an event. That first gift of consciousness is our step 10 practice. I use the term conscience because we are connected to principles. And when we're out of alignment with principles, we are disturbed. Thank God for our emotions. When we're out of alignment, we're uncomfortable. We receive the light when we remove the discomfort, the signal of being disturbed. Because we know that's the sign of self-will run riot. Again, the spiritual malady. We're not cured, we have a daily reprieve. I'm quoting from the big book, and I've done it regularly. It might seem redundant, but I do believe it's the best kept secret in the rooms. What does unmanageability mean? What does it look like? How do you deal with it? What does it mean not cured and daily reprieve? Really, what does it mean? Perhaps it means taking personal responsibility for staying in alignment. Nobody's coming, as I've said many times. I'm the one I'm waiting for. God's not coming that's huge. God's already here, fully present, fully available, fully powerful, fully caring. But I'm not present. That's the problem. And when I'm disturbed, it's telling me I've fallen asleep. And it's my emotional safety signal to wake up, to become aware. The key word, this is brand new slide in terms of the information on it and the way I'm unpacking it for step 10, self-awareness. At the same time, step 11, my favorite step, if I were to have any favorite step, the one I've talked about, written about more in volume and time than any other step. Step 11, that approach to consciousness, because in 1988, I was able to understand what it is, how to do it, why to do it, and begin a practice that was very practical. And it had been 25 years since I'd had any exposure to or practice of, or any authentic relationship with meditation once I left the monastery in 1964. Becoming a lantern. I'm not the light, that's very clear. But the light is in me. The light is in each one of us. And we need to remove those obstacles. I'm responsible for the effort, not the results. That was the key to releasing me from the burden of the results. This whole way that I'm talking about right now is a journey. Bill talks about it in the promise of step 5 on page 75. Hand in hand, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Fabulous image. Not a destination, an experience, a journey. There's no place to go. Things to do, of course. Tasks to perform, of course. We're human beings, and we need to take care of ourselves. And then if we choose to have responsibility for others, to fulfill that. Again, a process, not a task, a process. I've so emphasized that to everybody, that be patient with yourself. If you're not finished with your 4th step, it's your process. Just commit to finishing it. That's the experience that we're invited to have at some point, that awakening by finishing the 9th step. It might happen, and it will happen a little bit during the journey from 1 through 9. But the guarantee in my own personal experience is that that release and that healing takes place after you finish the 9th step. And you can finish the 9th step. By the end of next year, I absolutely am convinced, I don't care what your story is and what your conditions are, you can finish your 9th step by the end of next year. And I'm putting it way out there, 12 months. Maybe way too generous, but it gives everybody a sense that, number one, it's doable, but it doesn't have to be done by January. Self-realization. In contrast to step 10, which is self-awareness, this is self-realization. Look at the word itself. We become brain dead to these words, and we mouth them without thinking about what they mean. Making me real. Realization, making my I, my ego, healing it, that true self, that higher self, that core of goodness that I am, making me real, making me authentic. Becoming a lantern, again, that image of preparation for sponsorship so that I stand by that path. Shining the light on the path, shining the light on the path. I'm the vehicle, the channel of the light. I'm not the light, but I am the lantern. And I keep the lenses clear so that I can transmit that light. At the top, I talked in all 3 slides I didn't mention it, but it's our practice. We don't accomplish perfection ever, Bill says on page 60. Progress. I use the term, as most people who talk about human path or spiritual path talk about, a practice. My own spiritual director talks about he has sort of a mantra. You've heard me say it once before, but this is a wonderful context to repeat it. All people on a spiritual path have a spiritual practice. And they practice their practice. And they're faithful to their practice. And when they're faithful to their practice is faithful to them. See, that's that authenticity, that's that integrity. Guided by personal principles of reality, not feelings. I've already said feelings are critically important, but they are not the guideline for spiritual development. They are not the guideline for determining principles of reality. That's where we use our mind. And in step 12, we're invited to have an intention of helping others, especially people in our own fellowship. But it's not a manipulation, it's truly to help. And that's why I use the term altruism. A wonderful alternative word or synonym for unconditional love. I like the term unconditional love when it's understood, but most people mouth it without ever thinking about its implication. It's not possible. I mean, not possible. And I'm not under or overstating it. It's not possible for human beings to be unconditional because by nature we're material. Therefore, we have conditions. Now, it's a wonderful vision statement, and the alternative or the synonym that I like to use, which I've mentioned to you before, is altruism. Doing something for the benefit of somebody else with no possible benefit for myself. It's an ideal. Of course, I know that there's a benefit to me showing up here. Well, number one, I love it. Of course, I have a passion about it. But I walk away so sort of grateful that I've been given a gift to experience this and to communicate it. It's not about self-interest, and yet we can't discount that. Underneath, I know it's about my sobriety and my happiness. Underneath, I know that, but it's not the predominant conscious motivation at all. Maybe it was at one time, but that organically dissipated a long time ago. Transcending ourselves. Oh, these are $100 words, but they're great words to sort of chew on in a meditation. Transcending ourself. That is like what we're talking about in terms of page 62, selfishness, self-centeredness, the unhealthy ego and self-centeredness, where this is talking about, I am the center of my existence and I am responsible for improving and enlarging that consciousness. Part of that is being a lantern and shining the light on the path in my unique way. And each one of you has an invitation to do that, lighting the path for others. That's the whole point of the lantern concept, not to become some light that people are looking at, but to light the path for others. And so tonight, I want us to talk about your commitment going forward, and next week, again, your commitment going forward, and your your method of accountability. I'm assuming that you will have a commitment, and I'm assuming that you'll connect to some type of accountability, because I've been stressing that through the entire journey. There's no rules, but it's much more effective if you do that and commit it to writing. You don't have to come here and talk about it. I'm encouraging you to. so that other people will get some words for what they're thinking or feeling about this, or motivated to, in fact, emulate what it is you're going to do. At the same time, I want you, if you're willing to, share a retrospect. Here you are. It's December. Next week, we're done. All right. Look back over the time that you've been with us. You might have been here since January, or you might have joined us in August. Doesn't make any difference. Look back over the time from here back there when you joined. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter whether you've been consistent or diligent or what's been your experience with it. Maybe nothing's happened. It's been an interesting meeting. Or maybe there's been some even negativity because of either personalities on the screen or even my own. But you're here now, and you've stayed the course. You've walked the gauntlet. I consider this is a gauntlet, a rite of passage, to develop that core of goodness that each of us is.
My life was turned upside down about 2.5 years ago when my, whatever you want to call him, the father of my child and the man that I used to be actively married to had a stroke. Oh, yeah. And I was just starting to do your work like through the YouTube videos when that happened, and that just completely threw me off. And I finally got out of my depression enough to start with you in January. And I'll say by mid-January, by your suggestion, I started a daily meditation practice. I think I've missed maybe 3 days out of this whole year. Wow. And that's made a huge difference. And I think I've missed the Tuesday lecture maybe 2 or 3 times. And when I have, I've been sure to listen to the YouTube video. And I've been very far from perfect in doing everything you said in a timely manner. And I'll say that I've completed the resentment, I've completed the fear. I'm maybe 1/3 of a way through the sex inventory, and I just hit a wall. Oh. And I hit a wall, but I am committed to finishing it. I'll just say that I've been in 12-step groups since 1990. I'm no spring chicken anymore. And I mean, I've been through the steps multiple times, and you gave me like the first step was completely profound the way you taught it. And I finally got it because I'm addicted to video games. It's so completely obvious looking at my behavior, and you helped me to connect the dots like, oh, I can't do this ever again. Like, it's not about finding the right way to do. I can't do this. It finally like got through my brain. My Teflon brain. So
I know, right.
No, and the way you broke it down, meaning the body and the mind and the unmanageability. I mean, it's brilliant. And the way you taught the second step, which I kind of got before I started through your YouTube videos about, you believe in God by what you do. Like, really? Oh, it's not just a concept in your head. I mean, that helped me have the insight to start the meditation right away.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yep.
So that, and then, I mean, the fourth step that it's just, I mean, I would be working on the third step column worksheet, and it would become obvious to me, like, oh my God, I'm crazy. I'm absolutely, like, why should everybody conform to what I think they should? That's insane. And like, I had a resentment against my mother-in-law, who's like a devout Catholic, who really never, ever forgave me for leaving her son. I mean, I thought she had, but then when she died, all this stuff came out, and it was hurtful, and I resented that. In doing that, I thought, well, why should she forgive me? According to her, I committed a mortal sin. Why should she? And it has nothing to do with whether she or not, it has nothing to do with me. It's about her. And I finally, but not in a judgy way. I finally got that.
Yeah.
And I've stopped taking things so personally. And I mean, I'm very still much a work in progress. I have a lot more to go and to do. But I mean, I'll definitely be back next year. And I had every intention of going to your train the trainer thing on Monday, this past Monday, and I completely spaced, but I have a flexible work schedule. I'm going to arrange my schedule to be sure to go in January. And I'll say I'm already starting with somebody that you're taking through, that you started in July, who's on, I guess you just started step 2. So I'm only going to sponsor people who are willing to in some way go through your process, because that's how I had my current spiritual awakening. And there's no other way I want to sponsor now. So I just think that you're doing there's no way to express all the good that you're spreading. It really makes me want to cry. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I studied to be a missionary priest. I was in a religious order, and they were dedicated to be missionaries to carry the message. And I left there thinking it was a mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake, because I am a missionary.
You are.
The message.
Very much, very much.
Yeah.
And also a big thank you to Tanya and to Allie and to, Rainey, and I know there's a lot more. You've all been great. Whenever I've had a problem or an issue, you've always gotten right back to me, and I really, really appreciate it. So
it does. It takes a village, to use that phrase. And
yeah, for sure.
We have a village. Thanks very much.
I wanted to share one of the more difficult experiences I've had over the course of the workshop and how the work itself helps with it. I didn't really have words for it, but I think probably the easiest way to talk about it is to use the phrase imposter syndrome. And that is this sense that no matter what skills I might have, no matter what I bring to bear, no matter how much consciousness I have, it's not enough. And so, especially multiple times, I've hit a wall trying to do this work, not being able to see, not being able to get underneath something, and struggling with it and feeling like, who the hell do you think you are? You shouldn't even be doing this work. So what's kept me going is what you've encouraged. Lean gently up against it, or somebody last night said, light, persistent practice. And just staying the course. And finding out that if I stay with the struggle, stay with the difficulty and the uncomfortability, something will open up. So that's it. Thank you.
It's just such an important point, and I'm going to highlight it because that's such an important point, that we need to be patient with the discomfort. Now, of course, a conversation with a sponsor or a step guide might help break the logjam, but it's not necessarily going to smooth out the white water. I mean, staying with the flow of a river, white water, that's just rough going. And we just need to kind of stay in the boat and stay the course as we navigate it, and know that there's smooth water on the other side. At least hope that there is, and trust that there is. Yeah, that's a really important point. Yeah, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, because you guys are the survivors. I mean, we started out with probably 150 or so people. And quite frankly, I'm so pleased to see, I think we have 85 right now, which means that's close to 50%. In 25 years, I've never had 50% survive. This year's structure, or whatever we did, improved it from around 35% survivor to 50, 55, 60%, because we had close to 100 people last night also. So whatever we did this year, all of us together, the new assignments and the approach and the Zoom, it obviously improved the ability of people to stay here, to stay in the discomfort. Yeah, so thank you very much for acknowledging that.
And one final thing, you've been receiving a lot of acknowledgement, and I know that you have mine, but I just want to thank all the rest of you guys, the courage that you've shown, the willingness to open yourself up. When I'm ready to leave the workshop, I then hear one of you guys step up and say, Herb, I need some help with this.
Mm.
And what I hear you be willing to put yourself through is so moving. I can't help but stay. I can't help but take my next step. So I just want to thank all you guys. I really, really appreciate your willingness, your openness, and your honesty. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm more convinced than ever, probably as a result of exactly that experience with this group, that the community is so important, and my relationship with a community is so important. Yeah.
So yeah, today I was thinking about looking back on this thing. Let's see if I can say this without crying. So I didn't expect that.
Very nice, quite frankly. Yep.
Mostly what I thought of today is that I don't feel protected. And I mean that in the best way. That I don't have, it just feels like it's been lifted, but I don't have to come from a point of view of being protected. And I think I was doing that with every single person.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does it mean for you then? What's the implication of that?
You know, I'm not exactly sure, except that I feel safe.
Within yourself then?
Within myself, I feel safe. There's less. I mean, one of the times when we spoke, you said something about you pointed out whatever I was talking about, that I was very fearful. And I'm not sure I would have described myself that way, but also things have started happening mostly in my business life where I can't stick with a thing that I would have stuck with before. I would have been this sort of long-suffering person in a relationship.
You're willing to release things that aren't working.
Yeah. And it happened. One of them happened really quick. And I don't think it would have happened. I would have stuck it out, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah. And
so,
that's that death grip.
That's right. Like this fear that there's never going to be another client.
Exactly.
I better hold on to
this must work.
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't know I was so protected.
Yeah.
And fearful and sort of there's so many things, just self-justification, and also like this need to prove that I know a thing.
Oh yeah, right.
So anyway, it's a big relief. And you know, I've said this before, that's with more than 30 years of recovery and doing the steps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
all of that, all of your years, all of the work that you've done has prepared you to have the experience that you've had this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This workshop has really helped change my life and my program. I have 35 years clean and sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. I started in Cocaine Anonymous back in '86 when it was a new program. And all these years and all the inventories I've done and the list of amends, I took this class because there were 2 amends I have never made.
Oh.
And it's not because they were so horrible or egregious. I don't know what kept me from doing it, but I've talked it over with my step guide. One she said was I shouldn't do because it would cause more harm.
Yep.
One she said I should do, but write down in handwriting, write down rough draft of what I would be saying if I did make amends.
Right.
And
sounds like a pretty important situation.
Yeah, it was financial. It would be, it's a financial thing.
Right. Yep.
And
I've dress rehearsed with my sponsor on things that were real substantial that I wanted to try out wording on so that I could sort of get the phrases and get the feeling and not stumble when I was actually doing it. So you might want to think about that. But I like the idea of writing some notes. Absolutely.
Sure.
Not that you read your notes. unless you need to.
Oh, yeah. And I emailed it to her today, the rough draft.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you're in play. Great.
And that was my goal before tonight's class.
Yeah.
And also, I want to tell you, remember when we started the class, you said to us, what is your source of suffering?
Yeah.
And that hit me. And I have been suffering for 35 years in sobriety with an addiction, a behavior addiction that I wasn't proud of. It was, it just ran my life and ran my thinking. Even when I was not practicing it, it was running my thinking.
Sure.
I've been abstinent from that addiction, behavior addiction for some time now, years, like 10 years or so, but it's still running my mind.
Got it.
And so I wrote hours and hours and hours throughout January. What is the source of my suffering?
Wow.
And I wanted to tell you that in doing the third column and the fourth column, answering your questions and doing the sex inventory, the fear inventory, and writing a whole great big dialogue of my family history, I got to the core of that. And I read that to my step guide lady. And this is world shattering, world relieving. And I am so completely grateful. And I wanted to let you know and let the class know that I've had a really big breakthrough. And at 66 years old, at 35 years of sobriety, this is huge stuff.
Yeah. Well, you're just a youngster by my standards at 66. All right. So that's wonderful. And what you're talking about is freedom.
Yeah.
If there was any one word that I would use, and not any other words, consciousness is kind of fluffy. I would use the word freedom. Yep. That's what you've experienced now. You got free in your addiction, in your physical thing several years ago, several decades ago. But as you said, even the addiction dynamic in the mind was there. And now it sounds to me like you've really broken through.
I believe so. And
Yeah.
I believe it's from the fabulous questions that are so deep in that third and fourth columns.
Yes.
My commitment, I want to make a commitment that I'm going to finish my step 9, and I've set the end of January 2022 as my goal.
Yeah.
And
Target. Yeah. It's
my
a
target.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
target.
Not a deadline, but a target. Yeah.
A target, finished by the end of January. And the other commitment is to make steps 10, 11, and 12 my highest priority on a daily basis. One of the things that was really powerful for me this year was doing my 4th and 5th step and finishing. When I finished my 5th step, it was so clear that these the resentments and fears that I had to share were all what I call self-inflicted wounds. It was just the story and the bullshit I'd been telling myself just to make myself right. I mean, for all kinds of different reasons. And, regardless of what anybody else does, my reaction to that, I feel like I now really get it, that I have the freedom to choose how I react to that. And I'm thinking, or at least I think what you've taught me is that step 10, 11, and 12 are the process or the tools that will help me keep new fears and resentments from accumulating.
That's correct.
So I'm looking forward to doing the traditions and concepts with you as you start rolling that out. But otherwise, I'm going to kind of take a break and let what I've learned and experienced this year to just process it,
I recommend that. Yes.
to just, Herb, I can't tell you that how many times, every single day, a little thing happens. And I realize, oh my gosh, I get to react differently.
Yeah.
It's just happening in little ways. And I think I know it's the different switch, and there is no cure and all that stuff, but I feel like I have this huge hope that I am going to be able to practice these principles in all my affairs.
Yeah.
Inside and outside of the room, with my family, with my friends, with my community, and that maybe I can stop compartmentalizing my life.
That's why I use the term integration.
Yes, integration, to be integrated. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. And there was something and it slipped off the rails.
It'll come back, but
this is it. We come in because we're powerless and we need to have that experience, both understanding and re-experiencing it. But we're coming out of it, like what you just described. There's one word: I'm empowered.
Yes.
Now you're empowered to manage your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. As long as we continue to maintain the image of hand in hand, we walk.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not me, myself, and I doing it. Yeah. And
that's the unholy trinity.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing that I picked up that I learned from you, just because of a response, and I think everybody in our group too, who has shared from their heart, because in responding to other people, I just grabbed onto that. And you told a woman one day, practice gratitude for 90 days in a row, like a different thing every day for 90 days. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try that. And it's hard to come up with 90 different things. So I've been moving through other spiritual principles, and I started on compassion. I'm on day 45 of practicing compassion. And I realized that it is a flip from self-centered to other-centered. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, is it possible?
Simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
Sounds like you've got some wonderful traction there. That's great.
I think so. I just want to keep the focus,
Well, the way you're experimenting,
like,
the way you're experimenting with it that's the adventure, and that'll keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think thank you really is the appropriate word.
Yeah, it's a very limited word.
I don't have a word. I was just talking to somebody on the phone before I got on, and she gave me a litany of things of how I changed. And she's known me for almost 25 years in program.
Wow.
And she goes, you don't have dead weight around you. We call them aliens, people that are not healthy. So you do have less of those in your life. And as soon as you find out you don't hang around as much. But I really, I just never thought that I would go this long and to go deeper into the steps and a different experience. So I was blessed to be able not to transfer any prior work into this work. And I'm sure if I'm called to do this again, it'll be a different experience, because I won't have the same experience each time this work is done. And going forward, I was going to do, so my fifth step on Monday, I was in urgent care. I had COVID. So medical stuff got in the way of that. But I do have a tentative appointment set with my study partner. She's on step 8 and she's moving forward. So we're being supportive towards one another. And then once I get going, my goal is to get this done in the speed that God wills it to do. Because if it's not complete, it's not really going to be complete. And it's continuum. When people ask me to sponsor them or be a guide for this work, it's a way of living. it's not about, it's work, but it's a way of living, like you've said. And when I first came on this class, I had very limited view of life and the world.
Mm.
One lady told me about a week or two ago that I've gone through so many changes in anybody she's ever known. And not only did I get married, I started a new job 3 weeks ago
Wow.
in a field you never would ever even consider me doing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cleaning rich people's homes. They
Yeah.
tip well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's paying bills off, making those amends, even though they're not on the amend list.
Yeah.
I know where it
Yeah.
needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Well, you said at the beginning that you were in for the duration, and even though you have a 3-hour time difference from me, which makes it really late to get on and stay on, you've been very consistent and diligent throughout. So I'm glad that it was worthwhile, where you're getting feedback from people who know you, and that's so self-affirming, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And
Thanks.
thanks again.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks. And it reminds me to remind everybody, thank you for your thanks. That's great. And I actually know there's no adequate way that you can say thank you for the experience that you've been gifted. All right. I know that from my own experience. Well, what my mentor, teacher, step guide asked me before he ever took me on in 1988, he said, I will take you on as long as when you're finished, you will pass it on to somebody else. That's the act of gratitude, is where you pass it on in the way that you do. Don't try to be Herb. Don't try to be Karen. Don't try to be Jeff. I'm looking at pictures right now. Just be who you are and pass on what you know and what you've experienced. And keep it. Don't try to read out of my assignments and out of my way of life document or out of my books and try to parrot Herb. No, that's a disservice. You be the lantern that shines the light that you've been given on the path and to the people that you encounter, because that's your gift. Yeah, it's as unique as your personal fingerprint.
Just a couple of notes from hearing people talk and thinking about it, as basically another year has gone by.
You've said it 5 times now, I think, right?
It just makes me want to say, like, I feel like I went to Culver City for 4.5 years, and every year I kept going back, and I just knew I wanted to keep going back.
Yeah.
And the year that COVID hit, I guess it was last year, I was starting off, I had backed off a little bit the prior year and not made a point of going every week. But as last year started, I was back to thinking that it was still worth my while to go.
Yeah.
Like, after 4.5 years driving to Culver City, I live maybe 50 miles away, and in LA, that could be hours.
That's right.
And so I just wanted to say that, because, like, I've heard so much and I've gotten so much change, and my life is so different, but I'm still going back.
Yeah.
So that's a testament to you. That's a testament to what you teach.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the 12 steps in general.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a testament to all of it. So I was definitely going to say thank you, but I think I'm thanking you by showing up. I'm thanking myself by showing up, but you know what I mean? Like, my actions are still showing me that it's worth it. And I think that's worth saying,
Right.
And I've said it recently to other people, or thought about it to myself. If it was still in person, I would still be driving.
Yeah.
Because there's something about being in person. I'm okay with Zoom. There's some people that don't like Zoom.
I understand.
But so I'm not driving now. It's okay. But so many things I've gotten out of this was, like, I don't always have to write to communicate, but everyone has to do an email here and there, right? So I've learned to not use the same word in consecutive sentences. I think it's actually that's really a big thing, because when you think about it and you start moving words around, it just always sounds better. So something so simple that has changed my life in a business standpoint, really, in general, that way. I'm in a place where things happen not the way I planned, and it's always better. Whatever I'm always trying to plan never tends to work out for whatever reason. And then the things that are happening, I've learned to be okay with them.
Yeah.
But things that are happening and I'm okay and everything's working out better than it ever did. When I stopped trying to think that everything has to go the way I want it to.
Right.
It was not working very well. And I was always miserable.
Right.
48 years old before I ever did any work in any kind of program. And I was the epitome of a mess. So
I'll witness to that, Jeff.
and you know about a tenth of the story potentially.
That's
so
true.
I've learned to get out. I don't know what I was doing before, but I've learned to get out of those toxic work relationships. I've had a couple things come up and I know how to take care of myself. And I have my inner self like screaming at me that something's not right. And I've made those decisions and it's a business decision and there is money on the line, but I make those decisions and I know I'm better off for it.
Right. Yeah.
And other things are happening that are dollar amounts that are just
well,
more.
That's called perspective. You see, you're seeing the bigger picture. You're not being hijacked by these by some of the minor stuff. Yeah.
I'm getting out of a $25,000 job and then $500,000 jobs are landing in my lap. And so, I mean, yeah, like, and you don't know it's coming. So, I mean, so God is doing for me what I can't do for myself. I've been knowing that for a while now.
100%.
And of course I could make excuses to not show up. But why would I not show up when all these things are happening in my life? My life is so different. I'm 55 now. I was 48 when I got in.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to actually, but I'm going to be coming up on 5 years of sobriety. And I didn't go into this thing looking for sobriety.
Right.
I came into it because my life was a literal train wreck and I had no principles whatsoever in anything in my life.
Right.
And once I began to adopt the things that truly do matter, all these other things are working themselves out.
Yeah.
And I mean, lastly, if I wouldn't have been running my life in the ground exactly the way I did, I wouldn't have met the person that taught me how to change everything.
That's right.
And I look at that now, like my higher power had to lead me to that situation.
Right.
To end up in such a bad place.
Yeah.
That I got to figure out how to make everything better.
Yeah. Yeah. You got shown a path, and my own spiritual director in a different context said, God writes straight with crooked lines. Yeah.
That one really blows me away because like I don't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it either, because how could I?
Exactly.
If it didn't happen exactly the way it did, I wouldn't be here.
That's right. Yep. Well, it's you but and you responded and you continued to respond. And quite frankly, a 50-mile drive in Los Angeles is tortuous. So you get a Purple Heart for that. That's for sure. And also,
it's like I get on this meeting and the first thing I heard, right, when I came in a little late. The first thing I hear is he said, "You can't wave at me and trust that I will see." Well, that's how I live my life. Why can't everybody guess what I'm feeling?
yeah.
And the courage, that's what I got. I got the courage to be authentic, to learn a positive way how to express in a relationship my part, what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I never would say it. I would just walk around and show it. I'd be miserable. You know, my mother's not alive, and I hope the dead can't hear. But she was so right. Because what she said to me my whole life was, "You're such a miserable soul." That's a hard thing to hear from your mother, but it was so true.
Well,
That's what I was. I was a suffering soul.
yeah,
I really
yeah.
suffering, and I
God
didn't
bless
know
her.
that
Mm,
I was the root of my suffering. That's what
Yeah.
I didn't know.
right.
That's what I really got out of this program. If I'm the root of my suffering, then I'm the root of my freedom. It's sitting inside of me. And like two things that really stuck with me from the beginning. First of all, the picture of the guy in the desert that the only thing is he's holding on to those bars.
Yeah.
It's open all around you. You can get out. You don't have to stay in that suffering. But I just didn't know how to do it.
That's correct.
I really didn't know. I think I really, when I came, I had already like 3.5 years of abstinence
Yeah.
from compulsive eating and binging and purging. And I just didn't know how you do it. I really didn't know. I realized for me, the grace of God was that COVID came around and I got onto Zoom. I would never have been here. I have no way of getting to
Right, right. No, that's the real gift, and it's going to continue because of social media now and the technology we have. I mean, you can email 10 people and they can email 10 people, and you know that kind of outreach is what I'm suggesting, not in the sales sense. Please don't do that. But in the sense of, I mean, we've discovered the cure for cancer. Are we gonna hide it, or are we gonna tell the world about it?
So like when you said, like be your own experience, be your own self, pass it on.
Yeah.
It almost happens on its own.
That's correct.
People see the shift. People notice.
100%. Thank you for that. Thank you. 100%. That's right.
And they say to me, "So what did you do?" We've been in 12-step programs for 26 years together. And there was no movement. There was no change. Yes, we were all trying to stay abstinent, but there was no change. And so that I really see is happening. People are asking me. So
well, because people, no pun intended, actually pun is intended. People are thirsty and hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And they don't know where the nourishment is. That is exactly right.
I think I've just had the real way I put it is growing up.
Yeah.
Finally growing up at the age of 63. I guess never too late.
Exactly. Yeah. Most people don't acquire much wisdom until after 45 or 50 because they haven't made enough mistakes or course corrections to get a sense of reality. And that's what you're talking about. I'm now getting a real sense of reality, and it's not about wrestling it to the ground. It's about leaning gently into it.
I have been feeling like, I don't know why I'm so nervous, but I've been feeling differently, right? And I get very nervous when things are over. It's why I always get to the end of college and I stop right there because if I finish, then I'm done. And that means I sign it, whatever. And then I have to go back and it's always more difficult, right? I'm kind of feeling like I've been keeping quiet. I've been keeping my camera off. I've been feeling like I'm supposed to have this big awakening, and when does it happen and and I'm wondering, and it just kind of occurred to me yesterday, I'm trying to make changes and I didn't become who I am or, grow to the person who I am or develop all the wonderful and less wonderful habits that I have overnight. Right.
Right.
And so I'm sitting here and I keep thinking to myself, oh my God, I've completely dropped the ball. Herb is so mad at me because I know that's what he's got thinking about on his mind 24/7 for God knows what, for not answering soon enough, for emailing too much, for not emailing enough. and everyone in class probably wonders what I'm doing. And oh my gosh, work is probably mad at me and all of it. And I'm a terrible person, a bad aunt, whatever. And I'm realizing, you know, I'm trying to stop the things that have been my crutches. The energy drinks have subsided substantially and the coffee has subsided substantially. And so I wonder why I'm not like, you know, it's just like learning to deal with life on life terms. And oh my God, it's not fun all the time, right?
Right. Well, it sounds like you're detoxing in a biological sense.
And having to like give myself that grace, which I hate to give myself grace. I am, if I'm not hard on myself, I'll probably die, because who will watch out and make sure that I'm watching, right? And so to not be hard on myself and to say, I even was talking to Tanya earlier. She's like, hey, are you able to? And I'm like, yes, I had really thought about it and I really am. And thank you for asking, because I don't sometimes know when to say no or if to say, and I'm rambling now, but
No,
I
you're
just
not.
wanted
No,
to-
actually, you're not rambling.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
expressing your feelings.
Yeah. And I just wanted, I guess I wasn't going to say something, but it's kind of like, you know, they say when you hit, like I was even thinking about not picking up a chip this year, because I'm like, oh, you know, I haven't been to all the same meetings and people are asking me the things. And it's like, I don't pick up the chip for myself. That's what I learned from Wally. And it's what I learned from my, you know, the ones who went before me. And I don't come here and share for me, because it's not the Alley show anymore. And I guess I'm thinking about everyone sharing about how much everybody else helped them. And I'm thinking to myself, God, you know, it's not like the parade had to come in and the balloons and the confetti is going to fall and say, congratulations, Allie, you graduated from Herb. Like, it's a process. And I guess that, like, just to give myself and others who might not feel like you've got the balloons and the confetti, I feel like that maybe is part of the growth. I hope. Anyway, that's where I'm at. So thanks.
Now, we always enjoy your energy. And I have to say, I did miss your energy in the last several times where you didn't have the screen on. But I let you alone. I never said anything. And I'm glad that you're still with us. And the
Wi-Fi is bad and I'm traveling for work. So that's all.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that is a good explanation, of course. Yeah.
But it also kind of feels good to hide, but also, you know, the internet.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you, Allie, for all your support and your energy and your enthusiasm and your effort here at experimenting with perhaps a little more healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, it's adulting. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets easier. And I keep Red Bull in the refrigerator just in case.
I knew it, Herb. Thank you so much.
They have a mango. I love that one.
I love you more every day. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. That's not an endorsement. Oh, golly. Or maybe it is. So whatever. Oh, let's see. Anybody else have something that they would just love to say and will feel awful if they don't say it?
I think I do.
All right.
You know, I think it was last year, I was reading my fourth step and I was talking about the resentment, the anger, the absolute murderous thoughts I had about getting divorced at this point in my life from my husband. And he's a drinker and he didn't stop drinking. And I was always saying, you know, I was always nagging him about it. That word I didn't want to use, because that you said in that meeting in front of all these people, you said, what were you going to do? Nag him for the rest of his life? Nag him to death? And had I had my bearings, I would have said, yes, that's what I was planning to do. And had he not been the one to say, I can't take this, I want a divorce, I would still be in that marriage. And because I'm not in that marriage, I had to do something. And this whole program is new to me. And it has been, it was interesting you said I was on the periphery, because I've been on the periphery of spirituality for a long, long time.
Interesting.
And this pulled it so much together in a way that I'm almost comfortable with it. I have an understanding of what my God is. I lived my life as if I believed in God, but I didn't have any respect for God. It didn't matter to me.
Right.
Just so many things that you've said tied in with my thinking. And I see the whole thing as like a big graph. If you took this whole wall and made a graph, different things popped into my head from different times. There was no rhyme or reason.
Right.
The other day, I understood for the first time what it meant to change my story. I don't have to have that story that I had. I mean, I have it, it's part of me, but I don't have to be that person anymore.
Right. Right.
And I'm not. And another thing I want to say is my son asked me if I'd pick him and his girlfriend up at the airport the other day. And I said, sure. And anyway, he said, really? I said, yeah. He said, why are you being so nice? Anyway, he proceeded to say, you are so great. I don't know if I can tolerate having a mother that's this sweet, and I was just really responding. And I did think about it. I don't have to go, oh, why can't you get your own ride? And, that's such a hassle to go to the airport. When I said, sure, it threw him into a tailspin. He's in the program too. So
Yep.
He really appreciated that I did that. And I just really, I love you. I love you in a very special way. You're a very special person.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people who teach this, but you have whatever that Michael Jordan had that made him, that separated him. He was the racehorse.
Wow.
He was the secretariat among the racehorses. And that's what you are in this program. You really pull so many things together.
Thank you so much.
I thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm just sad that it's almost over. And
it's not over. It's not over. We can visit again next week, of course, and then in January. And you don't have to be doing the work to come to the meeting, because it's a meeting. And it will be the most robust meeting you've ever gone to. I mean, if you think today this year was robust, you wait till next year.
And I'm not saying your class is over. I'm saying my life is almost over.
Oh, that part.
My parents are starting to die, and it's hitting hard.
Oh my God. Are you kidding? I just changed my goal from 95 to 101. So yeah, I'm in for the long pull.
I know your attitude.
So take a look at this now. I've changed the format and some of the words, actually. I'm in process. Metamorphosis. This is that monarch butterfly transformation. Lord, make me a channel of your peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven, it is by dying that one awakens to life. That's a major shift. I took the word eternal out of there. I never did like it. Because of all of the sharing you had, of course, that just makes total sense, doesn't it? Amen. Thanks, everybody.